Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
Hedwig jerked off Tommy in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Hey there, my name is Monica Biltz, and you're listening to The Gaze Code, a podcast in which we will discuss anything and everything queer in film and television. Every voice you hear in this podcast will be queer, including my own. I am a gay human who grew up in a small town in the Midwest, so as a baby gay, almost everything I learned about who and what gay people were was from the movies. I'm an actor and a filmmaker myself, and I've always been fascinated with the history and evolution of LGBTQ+ representation in Hollywood. In this episode, we will be discussing the genderqueer comedy drama rock musical Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I am joined by Lizzy Hampton, my partner in every sense of the word, including romantic, business, crime, and cowboy. Lizzy is a queer and non-binary artist and generally emotional human being. They asked me to add that last part. This is the Gaze Code Podcast. A quick content warning before we dive in. This episode will very briefly discuss sexual abuse, violence, and transphobia, so please take care of yourself and feel free to sit this one out if you need to.
I'm going to open my drink because this...
Open it right in front of there.
Okay, we're going to make it ASMR. It is 2 p.m. But
It is 2 p.m., but
That's
here we
okay.
are.
I feel like I have a lot of feelings and questions when it comes to this film, so I'm not as confident as with an easy peasy film. Like, we'd watch
Oh, I feel the same way.
Brokeback Mountain or some shit. You're like, yeah,
I've never
bisexual
seen-
cowboys.
I've never seen Brokeback Mountain.
We'll do that at some point.
Okay.
It's easy, man. They
Yeah.
fuck on a mountain.
Did you say they're
It's-
bisexual? They're not just gay?
A lot of people say they're gay. I think they're bisexual because, I mean, they have wives and shit, and they're like, I don't know, unless the movie's trying to imply that they just are doing that because of societal reasons.
Yeah.
But some people argue that they're bisexuals instead
I think
of
that's
just
fair.
gay.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
Wrong movie.
wrong movie. We're not talking about that. We're talking
bad.
about Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is a movie that the first time I had even known about its existence was because it was referenced in Sex Education. Remember that episode?
Yes.
And they
Where
dressed
cosplay.
up. Yep.
Yeah.
And they cosplayed, and I was like, they're acting like this is an iconic thing, like it was a Rocky Horror Picture Show or something, and I was like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, I don't know what they're referencing. Like, I have no idea. But he was so excited. It was so cute.
So adorable.
It was so cute.
It was a 2001 film,
A Space Odyssey?
not a space odyssey. That'd be cool if the whole thing was just set in space.
You must like candy.
I like Gummibärchen.
But, so I say we start this off with, like, spoiler-free kind of thoughts on just the film in general.
Yeah.
And then we can move into the nitty-gritty of it a little bit more.
Cool.
So, Hedwig and the Angry Inch is a musical comedy drama. Hedwig Robinson, a genderqueer East German rock singer,
Represent.
who develops a relationship with a younger man, Tommy, becoming his mentor and musical collaborator, only to have Tommy steal her music and become a rock star. The film follows Hedwig and her backing band, the Angry Inch, as they shadow Tommy's tour while exploring Hedwig's past and complex gender identity. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that's a...
I feel like it's a pretty good description
Yeah.
of the
I
film.
agree.
I actually hunted a little bit to find a good plot summary.
Yeah. They
because
did
it's a little
leave out
complicated.
something. They left out that they're also in space.
Gummibärchen.
Because of the Space Odyssey. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we split it up between 2 nights
Yeah.
because it was a lot. The movie was a lot. Also,
Was
we
a
just got
lot.
sleepy.
Very tired.
But I things are happening.
Things are happening.
uh,
Is everyone okay out there?
I was a little inebriated both times, kind of different ways. But I don't know if it elevated the experience or just made it more confusing, because it is a confusing, not confused, it's complicated. It's a complex
And it's very
film.
artsy.
So
like I feel
lots
like
of it's up for interpretation.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I drank a little bit both times, and so I don't really feel like it really did anything like, I don't feel like it adjusted the way that I necessarily saw the film,
Yeah.
but I could definitely
It's
see
one
how
of
that could
those
happen.
films that I feel like every now and then when you watch like a movie that's, say, based on a book, you see something and you're like, I bet the people who read the book are like, they know what that is. You know, that's what the whole
Dude.
movie felt like.
Yeah, for real. I constantly felt like I wasn't quite getting it.
Not quite in the loop.
Yeah.
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 Which makes sense because of its origin. It kind of was made that way, you
Because
know?
it was like a musical or something.
Yeah, so John Cameron Mitchell met Stephen Trask. Stephen Trask wrote every single song, all the music and lyrics for the whole film. And they met on a plane, and Stephen Trask approached him because he was the only one on the plane not watching When Harry Met Sally. And so everyone else had their headphones in, so
Oh
he
my
sat down next
God.
to him. And they struck up a friendship, and John was wanting to write a show based on Plato's Symposium, which is all about duality, the whole like being cut in half and trying to find your other
Gotcha.
half and everything. And Stephen Trask was in the queer punk rock culture
Yeah.
in New York.
Who is he? Like
He's a musician. He was a manager at this place called the Squeeze Box. So he did a lot of drag shows, and he's a musician. He was in a band.
Do you know if he's cis?
Yes.
Okay.
To my knowledge, all the main people in charge of this film.
Because the director
cis.
also is. Yeah.
Well, I think he said that he explored gender a little bit. So I'm not really sure. That's what's so interesting, but we're gonna go into that later. I have a whole thought process on when it comes to gender about this movie. But it's so freaking interesting how this movie came about, because in order to workshop this story idea they had, because Hedwig is based on a real life woman, a cis woman from John Cameron Mitchell's childhood. So John Cameron Mitchell's whole story kind of aligns more with Tommy's character, the rock star who Hedwig stole all the songs from.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so there was this older German woman who was a sex worker, and her clients would come in and out of her trailer, and she was always done up in these beautiful kind of like over the top, and they based this off of her. They based the story off of her, and they kind of built it on that. So they took that nugget of an idea, and then they wanted to bring in Plato's Symposium and duality and gender exploration and all that stuff.
Man.
And to workshop this idea of a story, John asked if he could perform at the Squeeze Box to workshop his character.
Yeah.
And they did that in order to keep the punk rock vibe like alive in it and not get too theatery with it. So he had to dress in drag because it's a drag bar.
Yeah.
And it was the only act that had a storyline. The storyline has been the same from day one. He would explain the plot points in between each song and kind of tell Hedwig's backstory and everything.
Like while he's performing
It was
at
like
a drag
show.
bar?
Yeah, it was like a theater production. They would do a song and then kind of tell some jokes and give the backstory a little bit, and then do another song. When each song is just expanding the plot.
Yeah.
Each song
Yeah.
is just explaining something.
Yeah.
So the songs have been the same from day one. The plot's essentially been the same from day one. And when they took this nugget of a show that they had and brought it to kind of an off-Broadway scene, because people did not like it. People left in the middle of the show. They were not there for it because the punk people thought it was too theater. The theater people thought it was too much and too punk. And they said those are the same people that would go to the off-Broadway show and be like, this is the best. I was here from day one. And they're like, no, you
What?
weren't. You weren't into this. This was too weird for you back in the day.
Why did they think it was going to do well then?
I think someone just saw, I forgot. I watched a documentary about the making of, and someone had faith in it, and a bunch of people kind of came together, and they all threw this person gave $2,000, this person gave $3,000. They all people came
Whoa.
together, and they went to this really dingy, it wasn't even a theater, it was a hotel called the Jane Street Hotel, and it's in New York City, and it's actually where the Titanic survivors they stayed when they came back. It's really old. They said it smelled like piss all the time. It was not a theater, but it had kind of an auditorium type of vibe. Now it's an off-Broadway theater because of how well Hedwig and the Angry Inch did.
An off-Broadway theater that smells like piss.
I don't know if it still smells like piss. Hopefully it doesn't smell like piss anymore.
It's like part of the brand, though. It's
Yeah.
important.
I think so.
Yeah.
For the history of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's history. Come on.
But yeah, so it did super well in the little underground that it had. When they decided to make it a movie, it tanked, but it garnered a cult following.
I feel like that's what always happens.
I know.
With cult stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, it did not do well.
It didn't do well.
However, a small group of people was just like...
super into it. They did win some awards at Sundance. Like some critics liked it. It just I don't think it even made back like a third of the money that they spent on making it. Like it did not make any money. But now it's like a huge kind thing. Which, yeah, I don't know. What are your basic thoughts on the film? I feel like I just did the whole backstory of how it came to be, but like, what kind of impression did you get from it?
I mean, like I said, like I felt like I was a step behind the whole time.
I spilled my drink all over my shirt. Hey, actually, can't even tell.
Yeah,
can't even
it's
tell.
perfect. Yeah, I felt like I was sort of like out of the loop a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself just constantly like being fixated on the concept of gender within it, and maybe that's because of my own personal relationship with gender, I don't know, but I was just like so determined to figure out what was going on with gender, and it was so confusing like the whole time. And I feel like they sort of made a statement at the end, and I don't really
know what that statement was.
Exactly what the statement was. I have like my own ideas, but I also don't want to like talk about the end right now.
Yeah, true. We're gonna merge into spoiler territory from here.
Yeah.
Let's do that. You know the backstory, you know the basic plot of the film. If you don't want to be spoiled, stop now.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna talk about shit.
I loved I don't know, just like every single song is so like rock and roll, you know? Like I felt like they were all pretty good, all the songs.
Well, because like I said, those are the same songs that they were playing in those divey drag bars from day one, that they've been playing those same songs over and over and cultivating it and working on it and workshopping it for years.
Yeah.
Rarely does a musical, I don't know, maybe it does. Well, I just feel like it got a lot of raw underground punk, like a band playing in a divey bar feel to it. And it's because that's how it started and they didn't really change it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Actually, do you want to like just kind of go through the plot a little bit and kind of step by step and see what our kind of thoughts on it are?
Totes.
First off, I want to ask you, do you want to know what John Cameron Mitchell's first stage role was when he was 11 years old?
Part of me wants to guess, but I also
he was 11.
Just have no idea. The only 11-year-old role that I can think of is Annie, which I'm assuming he did not have. Or you're like,
it's an all-boys school. So I'm just throwing that out there.
An all-boys school?
All-boys school.
Do I even know of this show? Okay, so what I was thinking, it was going to be a bad guess, but my guess was going to be in Les Mis, you know, that boy who is just like, you know, and he's just like,
he talks like this.
Yeah.
He played the Virgin Mary in a nativity musical.
What?
At a Scottish all-boys school when he was 11.
That's adorable.
And I was like, I love that.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Okay, so.
And here we are.
From the Virgin Mary to genderqueer punk rock, you know, icon.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. So it starts, the movie's kind of all over the place, so I had to decide whether or not I wanted to arrange it the way the movie goes or chronologically. I chose chronologically.
Okay.
As the actual story progresses, because I feel like it's going to make the most sense in my brain. Because it doesn't start off where I'm starting.
Yeah. Something really weird that I cannot not talk about is that it starts off playing America the Beautiful.
And that's
What?
how it started off in those divey drag bars, too.
Why?
They started off
And I'm
every
pretty
show
sure
with
it
that.
ends. No, they play America the Beautiful or something again. I know I wrote it down twice. Yeah,
probably
yeah.
did.
Literally, it says America the Beautiful again.
Again?
Like
question mark?
pretty close to the end of my notes.
And
like,
in my research, I could not come across why that they did that.
that's so weird.
I didn't dive too deep on that specific question, but it didn't pop up anywhere of like, why? Why start off the whole show? But I'm going to try my best to try to get into the narrative of it and just talk about Hedwig as a person.
I'll try to use probably like they, she to because I feel best about that as far as I don't know. I'm like, and I'm like, can I offend Hedwig?
Well, see, that's the thing about this movie is that I found myself while I was watching it to desperately want to put Hedwig in a box and to give her a label because and that's so against everything that I believe. I am so anti-boxes. I love just kind of being like whatever when it comes to gender and sexuality. But I kept looking at it, the movie, and looking at Hedwig and looking at her and being like, what box can I put her in to make me feel more comfortable? And honestly, I don't think she goes in a box because John Cameron Mitchell is like, he even said she's not specifically a trans woman. She's a gender queer human being.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of floaty and up there and messy, and I like that.
I ended up really, really liking it.
I just wanted to put her in a box, and I didn't know if it was to make me more comfortable.
Right.
Or not.
Yeah.
But
I guess I was trying to figure out what the point what kind of point they were making or something like that. And how am I supposed to figure out the point they're making if I don't know what the main character's gender is, which sounds very, very silly to me now. And so it's just like I wish I would have been able to watch it from the beginning with
that
the
mindset.
lens and mindset of like, oh, gender is a concept, and I
Instead
know
of us
that,
trying to
and
figure
and
it out.
It probably is messy because gender's very, very messy.
Gender's messy, and I think John Cameron Mitchell pulled that off, where it's like, why do we gotta fucking put this shit in like a little neat little box and tie a bow on it when it's like you don't have to.
Which I ended up really, really liking.
And I wish more movies did that. I don't think I can name another movie off the top of my head anyway that successfully does that with gender.
And it just showed how like it's really easy to go from sort of one gender being fluid, and so you find yourself really, really desperately trying to present as one certain thing, and then that not feeling right, and you trying to desperately present as another thing, and that's still not feeling right, and it's just because it's hard, you know?
I know that,
and I feel like I've never seen that represented before.
No. And something that struck me was how Hedwig pulled off all of her clothes at one point and just was standing there shirtless, which is something that they did back in the early days too, which they said no other drag artist did that. They didn't, no one tore off their wig and all their stuff that they put all this work into.
I don't know. I don't know enough about drag.
So chronologically, Hansel and Hedwig is self-described as starting out in East Germany as a girly boy. So everything's fucking messy from day one. Girly boy who loves rock music and is stuck in East Berlin. They have a whole song about the Berlin Wall, a town torn in two, the whole, which contributes to the whole duality theme. You know, the other half, two halves, which is the whole theme of the movie. It really contributes to that. But he is a boy in every sense of the word that you would start off. He seems like a gay boy. Again, gender is so fucking messy in this movie. Anyway, Hedwig meets a man named Luther who wants to marry Hedwig.
You must like candy.
And get her out of Germany. But the only way they can do that is if they dress Hedwig in her mother's clothes and cut Hedwig's dick off.
It's just fucking wild to me because it starts out with being like, oh, great, get you a passport. We'll go somewhere where you can get married. That's what I was getting from it at first. And then it turned into like, a pressure to.
It was forced.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I don't know why Hedwig couldn't have what they wanted,
Yeah.
which was definitely not what ended up happening.
Yeah, it was unwanted and forced, which again contributes to the whole, like, gender identity question, because she didn't choose to have that surgery.
Yeah.
And so that's where this whole, the whole plot point starts off with the angry inch, because it was a botched surgery and left Hedwig with a 1-inch mound of flesh, is what she describes it as.
It's horrifying when I was listening, and it's like, oh, there was a gash down. Like, I feel like I need, like, a content warning for this. Like, content warning.
Content warning.
About to talk about some brutal things regarding all sorts of bodily harm and just not good.
It did make me feel things.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
Now I'm not even sure that I'm like, it's too horrifying. I don't even know that I want to talk about it.
We can, skirt past it.
No, no, we don't, like, I just mean I was going to go into some gory details, but I'm just like, I don't know that I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not.
Well, that's the thing, is they go into these gory details in song.
The movie. Yeah, in the song, yeah.
They sing about it. It's on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, it's brutal.
Yeah, it is really brutal.
So Hedwig goes to Junction City, Kansas to live with Luther. And Luther leaves Hedwig for another man. But that same day, it's announced that the Berlin Wall has fallen and East Germans are flooding freely into the West, which means that Hedwig's sacrifice was for nothing. And she's left with this expression of watching the TV like, fuck, like, shit. My husband just left me. This whole botched surgery was for nothing. And then that's when the song Wig in a Box, which is one of my favorites because it happens in this trailer, and it's very artsy because while she's singing, you can see the band playing outside. We've already met the band at this point because, like I said, it's not in chronological order. Band's playing outside. At one point, a wall falls down in the trailer, and it turns into a stage, and the whole band's playing on there. It's great. It's a great song. And then they even break the fourth wall another time where they're all, 4 of them, or 5 of them, or whatever, are looking out a window, and they're singing to the audience, and they go, now everybody, and they have the words at the bottom of the screen, and the bouncing little, I love that shit. And so everyone can sing along. Oh, it's great. It's so good. But in that song, the impression that I got was Hedwig being like, okay, I can work with this. This is cool. This is who I am now, and I'm gonna fucking rock it. You know, like trying on all the different wigs and being
that
like,
song makes
this is
me
who I
feel
am.
Good things.
Yeah, it
like,
really does.
Good vibes, positive energy. I feel like I could get ready in the morning to that song.
Put on your makeup.
Yeah.
Turn on the 8-track. Like,
which I feel like we kind of did anyway.
We did. We were singing that earlier when we were getting ready.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's one of my favorite songs in there. I have like 3 that really struck me.
What are your top 3?
I would say Wig in a Box, Origins of Love, and I can't decide. I really like, I forget the name of the actual song, where Hedwig is singing about the angry inch. I think it's called The Angry Inch.
I think it's called, yeah.
That was such a good one.
Yeah.
Hedwig confidently accepts her identity as a woman, and returns to her first love of music and forms a rock band composed of Korean-born army wives, I guess, and they're playing in a mall.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, back to Wig in a Box.
Yeah.
That song was really interesting to me because of all the things about I put on this outfit, this wig or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm insert name that I'm not here, like Farrah Fawcett or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, so you're Farrah Fawcett now. And then it's like, until whenever, when I turn back to me. And it's just like, okay, so I feel like I'm getting the idea that you are feeling like you're not really feeling like yourself.
But don't you feel like by the end of the song, that's the point that she's making, is that herself is... Well, I guess maybe not, because the whole thing of the movie is that she's trying to figure out who the fuck she is and find her other half.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not so much as, I know who I am now and I'm really confident about it, but
I'm just going to make this decision because it's easiest for me or something like that.
I'm going to roll with this.
Yeah, or it's like the only way, it's the best way for me to feel okay about myself in the moment because I am not comfortable, just like really trying to figure it out. And it's just a really interesting thing about gender exploration.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because I think another thing of it is you don't have to figure out all your gender questions by the end of the song. You don't have to, it's not implying like, hey, now I got it all figured out. It's like, I don't got it all figured out, but I'm working with it.
Keep going.
I'm going to keep going and I'm having fun. And then, it's...
it honestly just feels like a really relatable song.
Yeah.
I feel like, just like, oh, I'm going to try this thing and try this thing. And it won't necessarily always feel right or whatever. And you just keep trying anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God, it is such a good song. One of my favorites. So, again, chronologically, Hedwig is babysitting on the army base, I want to say. And she befriends Tommy Speck, a shy and misunderstood teenager.
Why is he on the army base?
I don't know. Is it an army base? I don't know. But they get together in a rather sexual manner.
Yes.
Very quickly. But he never sees her completely naked or anything.
Apparently, like, not, like,
at all.
Ever.
Because
like,
that's kind of like a big reveal later on. Not a big reveal.
Which is so frustrating because it's like the trans panic thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish that, I don't know, every time I see that in a movie, I'm just disappointed by it. Because I just want it to not be there because it's been done so many times. It's unnecessary. It's disturbing. I don't know why it's there ever. And
today, we don't need to see it anymore. We've already seen it enough. Again, this was made in 2001.
Yeah.
And it's very progressive for its time, etc., etc. But today, anything that I've already seen 100 times, let's try something else. Let's see something else.
Yeah. Like, I want to see trans people in movies without also having to have the trans panic bullshit in there. It's like, I want them... I don't want it to, when there's a trans person in a movie, I don't want it to mean that I'm also going to see this thing, you know?
Where it's like, there's some sort of reveal and shock and maybe even some, like, horror or something, which is, like...
Oftentimes there's violence.
Over it.
Yeah.
Well...
Luckily there was not.
There was not any violence.
Response.
And honestly, I think Tommy was supposed to know the whole time, because why else would he not... He never really kissed her. She made a point to say that. He never kissed her, and he never saw the front of her, is what she said.
He was very religious, though.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of it, because he was extreme. Like,
even kissing, though? You think that's... I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think... I don't know. I think that maybe she was more like a mentor to him.
She definitely was.
Yeah, and so it was like sort of inappropriate on both ends, or feeling
But there was a
inappropriate.
sexual nature to their relationship.
Yeah.
Because that's how the whole relationship started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
Hedwig jerked off Tommy in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Which is really funny, because she came in holding a baby. And Tommy's jerking off in the bathtub, knowing that she's in there. And she just puts the baby down on the floor and then goes and finishes jerking him off.
And then leaves a card. Just, like, flings a card at him.
For her band.
Yeah.
And that's when he goes and sees her perform. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she grooms him and trains him and teaches him rock history and gives him vocal training and kind of helps him discover his look. And she even draws this, like, a cross figure on his forehead, which becomes his, like,
what
thing
was it?
later
Like... It was like metallic silver or some shit
yeah,
like that.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
very shiny. And one thing I loved about that scene,
which felt very queer.
Very queer.
Yeah.
Is in that scene, right after she draws that symbol on his forehead, and he like looks in the mirror and he's like, "Yeah, I'm Tommy Gnosis," kind of like this is who I am now. He takes her hand and pulls her through all this laundry that's hanging up, but then this laundry turns into an endless sea of laundry. And
In
they're
a
just, it
small
keeps going,
little
and it keeps
trailer.
going and going and going, and there's like, scarves and bras and stuff are just like, falling over their faces as they're pulling through. It's magical.
It's so magical.
And they said that when they
loved
did
it.
that, they said that they kind of decided to do that pretty last minute, and they just got clothes from like, I think, they went from like the costume department or something, just like pulled a bunch of shit out of the drawers and hung it all up, because like, we should do this thing. Let's be really, really, it would be really, really cool if we did this.
I love that
So
they did
cool.
that.
So cool. They did so many weird artsy things. Like, whenever they referred to Hedwig's childhood and when she was little and would sleep with her head in the oven so she could listen to her rock music without her mom hearing, I think, they would have grown-up Hedwig also in there,
Yeah.
telling her story. And they did this cool, like,
Yeah.
circular, like, moving, and I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's very beautiful, very beautifully done.
Did you notice that thing that happened, I think 4 times in the movie, where Hedwig gets tomatoes thrown at her? 4
Yeah.
times. 4 times. Once.
I didn't realize it happened. It was a recurring thing.
Yeah, it was a recurring thing. So
She makes a joke about it.
Yeah. One time, I think it was like I don't know. One time, her mom threw a tomato at her while she was in the oven listening to music.
Yeah, and it
like, it's too
exploded
loud.
all
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 3 other times, I'm pretty sure, or at least 2 times, there was a tomato or tomatoes thrown at her while performing.
Mm-hmm.
And another time is when she's sitting down with the girls, and she's like, blah, 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 tomato thrown at me. I ate a salad afterwards and made a joke about it. But it's just like, that's so many
And that's a
times
joke
that
that
happened. Very
was
reoccurring.
made from day one too. So they probably were like, we should put a theme of tomatoes in all through it. So apparently in the commentary, the DVD commentary, John Cameron Mitchell said that Michael Pitt, who played Tommy, was complaining about John's stubble during the kissing scene, because like John had to shave like twice a day.
Who's Tommy?
We interrupt this program to show you just a handful of times Tommy was brought up previously in this podcast prior to Lizzy inquiring about the identity of the elusive Tommy.
Tommy's character. Tommy is Tommy Gnosis, the rock star kid.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Was complaining about the prolonged kissing scene and all the stubble that he had to deal with. So he ate onion and garlic right before the kissing scene, I guess as like revenge or whatever, just to fuck with John Cameron Mitchell.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I was like, that's great. I love that. Tommy goes on and leaves Hedwig after discovering Hedwig's angry inch, and just runs out of the trailer, never to be seen again. And he goes on to become this successful rock star. And so Hedwig is pissed because she formed him and
then he uses
wrote all of
the
her
songs.
wrote all of his songs.
Yeah. Rude.
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 Rude, Tommy. You stole all of her songs and lyrics and everything.
No respect.
No respect. So Hedwig forms a band called Hedwig and the Angry Inch, now composed of Eastern Europeans, including a character I can't wait to talk about,
Yeah.
Yitzhak.
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 I would have never known his name.
Yeah.
If it weren't for that.
So, another time that I was like, gender, ? How do I refer to this person?
Yeah.
So, this is, on all accounts, a cis male character played by a woman.
Yeah.
And so back in the day when they were first, because I think she was doing just the drag shows with them from the very beginning. If not, she started on with the rock musical. But they said, okay, they need to have a backup singer. They're like, we should have a woman because it would go better with John's voice to have a female backup singer. But they were like, let's play with gender more. You know, like, why should Hedwig be the only character that we kind of make a little bit more nuanced when it comes to, but the thing is,
I like that there were multiple characters.
yeah,
That
again,
had
not something you
nuanced
see all the
gender.
time.
Yeah.
But that's something you see all the time in theater that you don't really question.
Like Hairspray.
Yeah, you don't question it when it's on the stage. When
Yeah.
you see, oh, this is a cis male character, but it's being played by a female or whatever, you don't literally think twice about it. That shit happens all the time in theater. But they were
Yeah.
like, we're gonna keep doing it when we make the movie. We're gonna keep this actress who's gonna play this guy, and that's just the way it is. And so, this guy has a very, kind of higher, beautiful singing voice, more like, gentle eyes. It's kind of, it makes you kind of like, it made us like, oh, who's this?
Yeah,
who's
we
this
were
character?
Like,
Yeah.
Hello?
But I love that they just said, whatever, fuck it. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
It's great. And again, I sat there thinking, like, I want to put this character in a box. How do I put this character in a box so I
Yeah.
know, so I can put a label on this character and figure, But it's not how it fucking works.
Nope.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Because you pointed it out to me. I didn't even notice at first. You were like, what's this character's deal? What's going on here?
Yeah.
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 Yitzhak. And then, so, Yitzhak is a background, like a backup singer who, now this storyline apparently was gone into more in the stage show. That kind of was, like I said, when you're watching a movie and they do something, you're like, I bet the person who read the book knew what that was. So throughout the whole movie, Yitzhak is seen kind of looking at Hedwig's wigs and like smelling them and looking at them and
Trying them
on and then quickly hiding them again. And we're like, what's going on here? And they didn't really go into that super much. But in the stage show, they go into the storyline that Yitzhak used to be a drag performer. He used to do drag.
Gotcha.
But Hedwig was like, you can't be more beautiful than me. I am the most beautiful person on stage. So you gotta, keep your whole. You can't do any drag. You gotta be.
Gotcha.
You gotta keep your
That would
beard.
have made a lot more sense
Yeah,
to me
I know.
then.
And they kind of went into that a little bit because apparently Hedwig also knew that Yitzhak was a better singer. And so there's a scene when like Yitzhak is going crazy on the mic and singing his heart out, and like Hedwig looks at him and is like and pulls the plug on his mic. You can't upstage me. It's really selfish and just like has to be the best one on stage.
Yeah. You know what I am a little bit frustrated by? I get really frustrated that both of the characters. So they use a cis man to play Hedwig,
But like I said, John Cameron Mitchell said he explored gender a little bit. I don't want to say that he's...
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to say, oh, you're cis because you haven't officially landed on anything yet.
True.
And
then they use a cis woman to play a man.
Which, again, happens in theater all the time. You don't question it.
I know,
so it's
but...
like, what does that... Is it offensive now that it's a movie? Because you're right, if it was just a movie, that would be my first thought, too. It's like, why did they do that?
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels a little bit weird.
It does feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, were there any trans people on set?
Yeah. Like
Did
were
any
trans
trans
people
people-
involved? Like, I feel like they're obviously making statements about gender and whatever, and it would be nice to see trans people, genderqueer people in this film.
I bet there were behind
Yeah.
the camera. I bet there were. Nothing that stood out to me, that jumped out to me, that
Yeah.
was explicitly stated when I
Yeah.
looked at the making of this film. So
Yeah.
that's something else I would like to see more often, is if you're making a story about a thing, maybe have people who have actually experienced that thing on set with you.
Yeah. Maybe let them play the roles.
Maybe let them play the characters that
Yeah.
you're representing,
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is that Yitzhak apparently really wants to be in Rent. They keep showing him look at Rent posters.
Every time, like, I was gonna bring that up because
like, what?
Yitzhak is just like wearing a Rent shirt, which
Yeah.
I noticed. I wrote it down. It's on my first page of notes, and I literally just wrote Rent shirt queer.
Queer.
I love Rent so much, and I cannot believe you haven't seen it yet. That's so.
I haven't seen Rent. Maybe we'll watch it and talk about it on here.
Yeah.
And they're married. I forgot to mention that.
They are married.
Hedwig and Yitzhak are married. I think that's another thing they go into, is that like Yitzhak had to marry Hedwig to get out of wherever Yitzhak is from.
Yeah.
Croatia.
I could see that being a thing. They show them having sex, right? Pretty early on.
Kind of.
Yeah, but it's like
They showed Hedwig like
not enjoying it.
No, Yitzhak was not enjoying it.
Yitzhak's not enjoying it.
Hedwig is like initiating it, and it doesn't really look like Yitzhak's super into it.
No. And then it's really interesting because, like, really soon after that, they show the scene about Hedwig, which, from what I was getting, implied that Hedwig had been, like, molested as a child.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't really bring that up again. They just kind of, maybe just to color his backstory a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or her backstory a little bit more.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that they didn't do that in it, because I do feel like that's another thing that happens with trans stories a lot, is like, oh, they're trans or they're gay or whatever the thing is, you know, about them, is because they were molested as a child.
Which I don't think was the statement they were making with this film.
Yeah.
Is the because part.
Mm-hmm.
But it did feel like, you know, and in general, I'm all for random detail to color out someone's life story, even if it doesn't have to, like, contribute to the plot. But with things like that, I'm like, okay, so this happened. Was it
necessary?
Did it get brought up later, or does it contribute to her development as a human or her story later on? Mm-hmm. And maybe it does, and I missed it. We watched it once.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some more to that we didn't pick up on.
I don't know.
But
yeah, I feel like it never got brought up again. I forgot that happened until I looked down and saw my notes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Who knows?
I don't know. Was it necessary? I don't know. I don't know
either. God, it's weird. So my next favorite song, The Origin of Love. So throughout the film, Hedwig refers to Aristophanes' speech in Plato's Symposium, the myth that explains how human beings were once round, two-faced, four-armed, four-legged beings. I love this story because I've like it's so good, and I love that the way that they told it and animated it in this song.
You had a way so familiar, I could not recognize, 'cause you had blood on your face. I had blood in my eyes.
So the angry gods split these early humans in two, leaving the separated people with a lifelong yearning for their other half. So when I first heard about this myth, I read it as love, like your other half is your love, you know, your soulmate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the way that Hedwig talks about it is often like the other half of her identity, because she goes, is it a boy, is it a girl, I don't know, what's the other half of my,
that's
and
so
I'm like,
interesting.
That's so interesting, because
I read that as still being, who is my other half, like, as in a partner, will it be a boy or
like,
a
is
girl?
it Tommy or
and
something?
For me, I was just surprised at how binary that was, and I was just like, oh, that's weird, but I guess the whole thing felt kind of binary.
But is it though?
But
like
at
we
the
said,
end, I'm like, I don't know.
we
I
can't
feel like
if we can't put it in a box.
Yeah.
If we can't put Hedwig in a box, is it binary?
Yeah.
If we literally are unable to do that?
Yeah.
But you're right.
I feel like the things that they were eventually saying were not binary, but I feel like the way that things were talked about within the thing. But I guess that's part of the struggle, is like, maybe one of Hedwig's things was that they were trying to figure out which of the two options, you know, and the point is that it's neither.
You don't have A or B, and you have to choose one, because I don't think she ever settled. At least that's not the impression I got. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I was a little bit concerned at first, because I was like, I don't even know. Like, for a second I was just like, oh, did they just go back to being like, oh, Hedwig's just a man and was confused the whole time? And I'm like, that's a weird way to do this.
You mean with
whole
the very
thing.
trippy end they had?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at the end of the film, there's lots of stuff that happens with Tommy. Tommy is caught with Hedwig, and it's this big scandal because Hedwig is not a woman, quote unquote, and it's like, because even Tommy goes, I didn't know that she wasn't a woman, blah, 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 and he's, like, embarrassed, and it's a scandal, even though he does have feelings for Hedwig. He, like, is, horrified because the media found out. But it is good for Hedwig's career because she was caught with this celebrity, and so her band does a little bit better. Because throughout the whole movie, her band is performing at these random seafood restaurants, which I love. At one point in the movie, they were performing behind a buffet, and the buffet was covering up the whole band, and it was great. And there's a shot where they're performing by these porta potties. It's very beautiful, I don't know. It's just so, and they always have 2 or 3 people in the audience, or just no one's paying attention to them.
Mm-hmm. I love that there's that part where they're in the restaurant, and no matter what, Hedwig is always just this is rock and roll. This is so always going to be rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And so she's jumping on the tables and walking all over everything. And when she grinds on a customer's face, amazing.
But it's a seafood restaurant.
Yeah.
But she's determined to make this shit rock and roll, which is also something else that they did every single time. There was one seat in the audience that they're no matter who sits in that seat, I'm going to grind on their face. It doesn't matter who it is. And they did it every single night. And so the people who started seating him started putting really interesting people. If anyone remotely famous came to see the show, they would put him in that seat.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, you're right. And the thing is, it was not a huge budget to make this movie. So every scene that they performed in a restaurant was the same restaurant. They just shifted to different angles, and the set designer worked her ass off to make it look like a different restaurant.
I feel looking back on it, I'm just oh, wow, that does make sense to me.
Yeah.
But also, whoa.
Impressive.
Yeah.
So impressive. And she even put a huge just a photograph of the Titanic sinking in the background of one of the restaurants as an homage to the Jane Street Theater.
God.
They said that she worked her ass off.
This smells like piss.
This smells like piss. Smell-o-vision. Yeah. But they said she worked so hard to make every corner of that restaurant look like 4 or 5 different restaurants, which is holy shit, that's wild. But anyway, so their band wasn't doing well before, but now is doing better. Well, actually, they had a big old falling out because Hedwig was just treating Yitzhak like shit, and Yitzhak was like, I got cast in Rent.
I want to go be in Rent.
I'm going to go be a star.
Yeah.
I'm going to sing, and I'm going to dance. I'm going to be a star.
Which makes so much more sense to me now. I wish I would have, just from that little moment of Hedwig being no, don't upstage me, I wish I would have realized all of the things with that, because I'm oh, of course,
Yitzhak? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Yitzhak could be in Rent because Yitzhak is a fantastic vocalist and a badass.
And used to do drag. You know, I never would have gotten that from his personality that he would even want to be in
No,
Rent.
he seemed really embarrassed about it. I even have written down here something about gender play embarrassment that has to do with Yitzhak.
Maybe he was not embarrassed, but trying to hide it because Hedwig would have been pissed.
Yeah.
If
I think
Hedwig
that's
caught
probably more
him
accurate.
wearing one of her wigs.
Yeah.
So they have a falling out because Hedwig is being a jerk and tears up Yitzhak's passport. This is right before she has her she reunites with Tommy, and they kind of reconcile a little bit. Right before they drive into a truck and paparazzi bursts on the scene and all that stuff. And also, apparently, while Hedwig rises up and becomes more famous, Tommy's popularity kind of tanks, which is interesting. So I'm I don't know. It's interesting that scandal makes his popularity tank.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of weird. But anyway, so Hedwig reunites with her band, and they perform at Times Square. So this is where it gets interesting, like you said earlier. The culmination of this whole story, and kind of implying that Hedwig is finally discovering her whole deal, is when she tears off all of her clothes, takes off her wig, gives her wig to Yitzhak, who
which made me
made my heart happy.
Because I'm you are finally allowing Yitzhak to play with gender.
And Yitzhak all of a sudden transforms into this beautiful woman and is crowd surfing, and it's great. But then it ends with Hedwig kind of presenting as a man, shirtless, in this very trippy, dark auditorium with Tommy, and they're Tommy's singing at her, and it says here, what I'm reading is that she realizes she created her other half from within herself. it's all very nuanced and like up for interpretation. And then anyway, it cuts to the very last shot is Hedwig naked walking through a dark alley away from the audience. And I was left with, don't know what that means.
Yeah, same.
Great movie, lots of fun, don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm like wondering if nope.
Up for interpretation, I guess. I don't really know. If they were trying to make a statement, what's making you laugh right now?
Okay, so when Yitzhak is like crowd surfing, right, and transforms into wearing the dress and the hair and everything, and I literally have written down Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen dress, because I swear to God, do you remember this movie?
We watched it together.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's the Eliza dress, which is this tight, sequiny red dress that's like really short, like, you know, and that is literally the dress that
Okay,
Yitzhak
what
is
year did that
wearing.
movie come out? Was it around the same time? Could it be the same dress?
Could it be the same dress?
Could it be?
Dressception.
Dressception.
I honestly feel like
I love that's one of your
It probably
notes.
could be the same dress.
See, your notes, I'm very interested. So Lizzy spread out their notes across 3 separate parts
3 separate pages.
of their notebook, because the notebook, it was like, so there were like 3 random empty pages scattered out throughout. But so I'm wondering if your notes make more sense than mine, because mine, like I said, I was a little inebriated they don't make
Mine are
any sense. Mine are like aspect ratio ?
Mine are pretty confusing. Something really interesting that I had written down was this quote that says, "Absolute power corrupts. Better to be powerless," which is something.
Whoa! Where'd
Yeah.
you get that?
But that's something that Hedwig's mom said to Hedwig. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. I think. Oh, no. Well, God, I honestly do not know who said it to
I
who.
love that
I think
quote, though.
Hedwig might have said it to somebody else.
I think you're
maybe-
right. I think the mom said it.
Or did Tommy say it to Hedwig?
I don't think Tommy's that eloquent. Tommy seemed a little just like an airhead.
Yeah. Well, you know that conversation that they were having when they were, you find out that Tommy, like, is very religious, and he's talking about religion, but kind of in a way that most Christians probably wouldn't talk about
He's
it.
talking about Adam and Eve, right? Like how
Yeah,
fucked up
yeah, and
that,
he
all
was
that
saying it's
shit
really
was.
fucked up.
Uh-huh.
I think it might have been that scene that happened. But I thought that was a really interesting quote, and I'm like, how does that affect Hedwig?
Tell it to me again.
It says, "Absolute power corrupts. Better to be powerless." And it's like, that's
Maybe
really...
that's the culmination of the film, is that she's giving away her power to Yitzhak. Maybe Yitzhak's taking over the band, which kind of looks like it was.
Right.
And then she's just like, peace, I think I'm going to be happier if I'm just like outside of this. That way I'm not
Yeah.
constantly fighting for power, but I just give up all my power. Maybe that was the
True.
statement they were making versus
I don't
anything
know.
to do with Hedwig's gender identity or whatever.
They had to be making comments about gender identity.
What are they?
Right?
I don't know what they are, though.
That gender is nuanced and complicated, and I don't know. One thing that concerns me a little bit is that at the end of the movie, the people who played the parts of the 2 people who are exploring their gender, they end up
Swapping?
presenting. Well, they end up presenting in the way that is true to their actor's
Identity.
gender or whatever.
That's
Which
a good point.
bothered me. I literally, the last thing I have written down here is frustrating, TBH, because
I want to see these notes.
it says everyone is finally into it. Like, so everyone at the very end of the movie, when they're having the concert and Hedwig has ripped off all of their clothing and everything and is presenting as a man, quote unquote, and then the Yitzhak?
You got it.
Yitzhak?
Yitzhak. You got it.
Who, you know, we have seen as presenting as a man the whole movie, is now presenting as a woman, which...
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, and I'm like, are they trying... And everyone's into it. Everybody's pumped. And I'm like, oh, are they
And
trying...
now they're finally happy? Question
Yeah,
mark?
and I'm like, are they trying
at
to
least
say...
Yitzhak is.
Yeah, like, are they trying to say that like you shouldn't play with gender and you should just
That would seem like the whole opposite of what the movie's going for.
But it was so weird. It was like, why is everyone into it now that Hedwig is presenting in a way that everyone would, in a shitty world, which is the world we live in, would want Hedwig to present, rather than continuing to explore or whatever.
But, okay, so if we're taking the actors out of it, so if we just live inside the world of the story, Hedwig was born a girly boy, as she describes. But Yitzhak is a cis man.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally
so
being
totally
able to explore their gender in a new way.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it was played by a cis woman.
Yeah.
So does that make any difference?
So honestly, that just makes it kind of a weird choice.
The whole thing is just, like, we talked about, like, Lizzy got after me because this apparently was a hard movie to review right off the bat.
Yeah.
And it is, because it's just complicated in the way that you would describe it, and trying to figure out the points that they're making. I enjoyed it. It's a great musical.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
I find myself singing the songs like all day, every day.
Put on my makeup.
Turn on the A-track. Like, I'm just constantly singing the songs, and I love the history behind it, and I love that the cast was basically the same cast from day one, and how they just really came from the ground up, and they had no money, and they just did this thing, and they started off in the underground queer punk rock culture, and they built something out of it, and it became this, like, iconic queer movie. I love all that stuff. And it's a great movie. Overall, great movie. I kind of want to watch it again. I'd recommend it to people. But you couldn't definitively write down, this is what this movie means, and have everyone agree with you across the board.
And maybe that's kind of a good thing, because
Yeah.
art is
Subjective?
Yeah.
Maybe that means it's a great movie that we can't quite understand it, But the thing is, I find myself wanting to fully understand movies, and the more I understand it, sometimes the more I like it. But I am finding myself being comfortable with the uncomfortability of this film.
Yeah.
Being okay with the fact that I don't quite get everything that it has going on.
Yeah. I also really like that Hedwig is like a kind of like a very full character, because you are like, Hedwig is mean and aggressive and all of these things.
And sympathetic.
Yes. So it's like you are not only feeling like you don't like Hedwig or something, but you're also not only feeling sympathetic and like you like Hedwig, It's like more complicated
Because
than
that's
that, which
what
I really like.
people
Because a
are
lot
like.
of the time they'll do, so it's like
People
a
are
real person.
complicated.
Because a lot of the time when you see genderqueer people in media, they're one or the other. They're either bad or they're good, and usually if they're good, it's simply because you feel bad for them, which is also very frustrating. And I feel like there are things about Hedwig that it's just like, Hedwig is also
It's
like a good person.
Who makes
struggled
mistakes
with some things,
and has been selfish at certain points.
And also, it's probably the world, it's the way that the world has treated Hedwig that has, and even just like family, like growing up, like how shitty Hedwig's mom was to her.
Sometimes, but sometimes she wasn't. That's another thing, is that sometimes she was really chill. Like when Hedwig came home, I was like, hey, I met this dude and we're going to go live together and be happy. She was like, okay, that sounds great. I'm really excited for you, and like was pretty supportive.
That's true. I was really shocked by that. Yeah.
Which is just another thing I feel like.
But I was happy to see it, and it just wasn't, they didn't make it a big deal or anything like that, but then they immediately go to like, you have no agency. You have no agency over your own body. None.
I feel like, going back to the complicated good and bad of characters, I think that's how you know that a queer character has been made by a queer person, is because I feel like a lot of times when someone puts a queer character in a film, they make them, at least recently, no flaws, because I think they're scared. They're scared of making this queer person flawed, because they're like, oh, no, I don't want to upset anybody. See, this person's queer and they're proud and they're great.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, I can tell that this was made by a queer person, because it's like, oh no, they're a person, they're complex, they do shitty things sometimes.
Yeah, that's why, like, what was it? Was it Tangerine? Where it's like those characters are so all over the place. I love it. And
we'll have to do Tangerine on
that
this
wasn't
now.
even, okay, so that one wasn't even written by a
No.
queer person. However, the story was completely based off of one of the
Real people.
actresses who was queer, you know.
Mhm.
So like
Also, just that director, I forget his name off the top of my head,
I
but
don't
his
remember.
other movies were also just so
Didn't he
grounded in
also do the
reality.
Florida Project.
Florida Project, it was so grounded in reality. I don't know how he captures real life and real people so well,
don't
but yeah, that's a skill he has. So he was
I wish other
able
people
to do
got more
that.
credit for their stories and the work that they did. But anyway, wrong movie once again.
We'll do that sometime.
I
though.
would love to do that movie.
Maybe
I
we'll
would
do an
love it.
easier one first.
Yeah, for
We'll
real.
do like fucking she's what? But I'm a cheerleader or some shit.
Yes.
Like something easy
oh my
and
God,
fun.
I would love that.
Anyway, we've been talking for about an hour.
Yeah?
Yeah. So,
Damn.
Lizzy, do you have anything you want to plug that you got going on the interwebs?
You know, I don't have a whole lot to plug, but I will plug my Twitter where I live because
Yep.
I spend my whole life
You
there.
definitely do live on Twitter. Lizzy's thoughts and the way that you speak is formed in the way of tweets, which
very
I
true.
love. I love that. What's
yeah,
the thing you
that's
always
not
say?
embarrassing
You're
at all.
like anything that you'll just look at something and go, me. You know, me doing A, B, and C or whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
like, that's a tweet. You're talking in the form of a tweet.
Why are you talking in tweet form all
Okay,
the time?
tell us your Twitter.
Okay, on Twitter, my name is Lizzy Hampton. That's who I am. And on Twitter, I'm at Lizzy_Hampton. That's Lizzy, Lizzy, not like Lizzie McGuire. Although I would love to be Lizzie McGuire.
You are Lizzy Hampton, though.
Yeah, I am Lizzy.
Which is with a Y.
Yeah.
So follow Lizzy on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter because I'm at Belts Monica, and I'm also on Instagram under Monica_BZ. But also follow the show, right? Because Lizzy's gonna be back.
I'll be back.
Pretty much every time we review a movie, it's gonna be Lizzy here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because we love watching queer movies and we love talking about queer movies.
We do.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. So yeah, follow us in every aspect that you can follow us. Be gay, do crime. Watch films.
Be kind.
Be kind. I kind of want that to be like our sign off.
I like it.
I like it a lot.
When I heard it in the last one, I was like, this is good.
I'd wear a
This
t-shirt
is
that
really
said
good.
that.
Oh my God, me
I'd put that on a t-shirt.
I so would.
So yeah, do your thing, you gays, and we'll see you later. Right? Go
Yeah.
watch Hedwig.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
It was
no
fun.
problem. I mean, I forget to thank you because you're going to be on the show so much. You're essentially almost a co-host. So I'm like, I'm not going to thank my co-host for being on here.
Well, thanks
But
a lot.
Thank you for being on here.
So rude.
It's so
My
rude.
feelings are hurt.
But see, I'm a complicated queer person. I do rude things
man.
sometimes. I'm a
Wow.
complex human. Right. Thank you so much, Lizzy, for being on
yeah,
here.
of course.
It's great. I hope you come back.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. The Gays Code podcast. Do that thing. All right. Come keep tuning in. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Go watch Hedwig. Watch Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Okay, bye.
Wow, you made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. Thank you for listening. And if you want to see our lovely mugs, we also do a video portion of this podcast, which can be found on other cute corners of the internet, such as TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, all under the Gays Code Podcast. Do you have a friend who you think would enjoy what you just listened to? A friend you just watched this movie with? Send this episode their way. We love you just the way you are, and we'll see you next time. My name is Monica Biltz, and this was the Gays Code Podcast.